Welcome. This is Astrology Insight Now, a weekly forecast program with astrology and other ways to help you make the most of your week and to heighten confidence for daily life. It's run by Pamela Cuccinell, that's me, the astrologer, and I invite you to find out more about my work at insightoasis.com. I look forward to your joining us every week. Please share with your friends, and here we go. We are on this opening week of the waxing moon cycle of the Taurus New Moon that happened on Saturday. Now, last week I talked about how auspicious this particular new moon was, and I was struck as the week panned out how Pope Francis had died, and that was the day of his funeral. So his funeral was on a day when basically the moon is in the energy of Earth Goddess. And he was a pope who valued women. And you can read on my blog, Spot on Astrology, about how that was manifested through the onset of his papacy when he brought Mary Magdalene up to a feast day of her own, which had always been acknowledged by those who admired that particular saint. But he brought her into more visibility as the first apostle, the apostle of the apostles, because she was the one who first saw Christ had risen. So I don't speak a lot about my faith of origin, growing up Roman Catholic, but I have a very strong education in religion, not just Catholicism, but at this point in my life, my interest and curiosity about a ritual and how such an old faith may continue and thrive. And so it's fascinating to me to see the things on the particular day of his funeral that really seem to echo goddess energy and the feminine to me. So, to talk more about this week coming through, so that new moon, part of why I was so excited about it was because as it moved through the sign, it made a harmonious aspect to Venus. And when those two symbols, the moon and Venus, are well aspected, a trine, a conjunction, a sextile in this case, then the vibratory energy of love and how we express it and how we value those and the things we love is on a high octave. So blessed is the child who has those two energies of the psyche in sync. It's not a truism for all of us, but when we see a day where this is happening, especially at a new moon spark, it speaks of being able to continue energetically with flowing with a sense of having our needs met and also being able to express and move towards what we love and what we want. So this waxing moon cycle is very strong for that. Now, on this particular day that I'm speaking about, the 28th of April, we're still in that energy throughout the day, and it really intensifies as we move into the evening, late evening. So it's a wonderful day, evening, to think in terms of what is it do I want to bring into my life, make happen, and attract. because Venus is about what we attract, how we are able to pull into our life the things that we really want. So amplify that. And I can't encourage all of us enough to amplify the resonance of peace and love at this point in time. And as I'm making this recording, it's actually the day of, and I am not sure exactly how all this is going to pan out, things that occurred and happened on the day of the new moon. But one of the very auspicious meetings, of course, was between President Trump and President Zelensky. And it is my hope and wish and heartfelt prayer that this shifts a change, a thaw in what has been a bit intractable for the present United States president about the situation in Ukraine, fairness, and also alliances with Europe. So, anyway, peace and love. However you want to manifest it on Monday, the 28th. The other thing that can happen with this new moon energy is thinking in terms of what is it that you want to bring in a sense of what you deserve and value, which again is why I'm emphasizing a sense of fairness, peace, and the inherent value and worth of every living being on the planet. And right now there is a lot of noise that is not valuing human life in, or even the robust energy and health of the earth and all animals in its environs. So let's put some of the optimism, energy, and hope of this new moon into that in your personal life. You can certainly bring in the energy that has to do with what increases the value of how you're able to move through the world. Are you being paid what you're worth? Are you in some way concerned about what's happening economically in your world? Do you have what, because Venus is also about, getting the money or the things we need in our life to help us feel as though we're able to live in a creative and the ability to attract and bring in the things that really increase the quality of our lives. And that includes, of course, the lives of everyone. Seems like a really big order, but when you think about overall fairness and equity in the world, we see this explosion of fantasy about how the super wealthy live, and some of us may feel some connection, identification with it because of images online, but it doesn't really necessarily play off in day-to-day life and moving around city streets, driving through your neighborhoods. Are people really living in a sense of fairness? So this new moon energy, I think over the next couple of weeks, we can really magnify the focus of bringing love and overall value for the things that we appreciate on the planet and the earth. And yes, things like gratitude journal, or even when you wake up, just acknowledging what you're grateful for, or when you go to bed, or throughout your day, thinking about how you change the voice in your head to emphasize the positive and not get sucked into the negative. If you are witnessing what seems to you to be a lot of unfairness, and you have concerns about how things are going, think in certain ways. What can you do, even in a small way, to give emphasis to the things you believe in and that you want to attract and amplify in your life? So, the moon in Taurus overall on Monday, little rituals we can do to feel this sense of comfort and the ability to share that energetically with more. Find yourself in nature, in front of a visual that gives you a sense of calm and gentleness. Hug a favorite four-legged animal or pet that you really um, cherish. Hug a friend or family member, someone with whom you're romantically involved. Feel that infusion of love in whatever way you can. And if you're isolated and don't feel that around you, allow yourself to drift into a space where you have a memory of that, or where you can vision that as being a possibility for you. However it looks, dive into that feeling of being loved and being able to share love, being valued and being able to share a sense of inherent value and worth with other people and things in your life that are meaningful. Very strong day for that. And when you go to sleep, think in terms of how does this continue to flower and bloom and grow. So the moon enters Gemini at 2:34 a.m. on Tuesday the 29th. And once that occurs, we're in a period that's a little more stressful. And one of the reasons for this is when the moon is in the sign of Gemini, we get pulled in to a lot of conversations, distractions, tangents. And depending on how that moon in Gemini moves, because Gemini is about information, sharing ideas, curiosity, being in touch with childlike wonder or expression. And because of how the moon is geometrically aspected as it moves through the sky over the next couple of days, Tuesday can be pretty informative, pretty stimulating. We can feel very energetically connected in many ways. Maybe the ways that we wanted to reach out and begin the process of how we're opening into what it is we want to make happen over the next couple of weeks, months, year, is feeling like, oh gosh, people are getting in touch, I'm getting responses, this is great. The thing to keep in mind is as the moon moves through the sign of Gemini into Wednesday the 30th, and I also need to mention all the times I give her Eastern time zone, so you may have to adjust this information. But what happens on Wednesday the 30th is there can be some sort of detour, not necessarily on this day. It can happen actually the next day or in the days that follow. So let's say, as an example, you got a response to an application you put out for a job, and you're excited about it, and you send in follow-up. And for some reason, the response doesn't come as quickly as you would like, or you get some information that the job is actually different than you had thought, it doesn't mean this is bad. But what it does mean is that as you follow through with whatever might have been initiated on Tuesday and Wednesday, be ready to adapt. And if you can't adapt, or if what did look good wasn't exactly what you thought it was going to be, then consider how you might shift that to looking at, okay, well, that was a positive response, but this is not really what I want. So let me keep proceeding because I did get an affirmation. So think more in terms of how you turn it in a positive spin, whatever it may be, even if it's not something you can follow through and grab. But overall, these 2 days can look, as I said, as though lots of information comes in. It works best if you're able to think on your feet and turn on a dime if necessary. But that doesn't always happen, depending on other responsibilities and things that might be going on in our lives. So the important thing is to look at whatever came in the most positive light as possible, and also realize that if something didn't fit, well, it's leading you to something else. So that moon goes void, of course, at 11:49 p.m. on the 30th. And then it enters the sign of Cancer at 3:23 a.m. on Thursday the 1st. This is Beltane. May 1st. May Day. Maypole Day. It's a traditional day of onset of spring, sheep shearing, a time when we start to move into full appreciation of longer days and what we can make happen with enjoying the fruits and potential of spring. It is energetically a very powerful day in the celestial calendar because it brings in a real solid energy of fixed sign, in this case Taurus, that has to do with this is how we concretize and really mark the process of development that we're going through. The other thing that's happening, of course, is with that moon in the sign of Cancer, it's working beautifully with the energy of that Taurus New Moon. And it really helps us gather in what is the support system and way that we can move through what it is we want to make happen. When the moon's in Cancer, a lot of the emphasis is on family, home, bringing in things that allow us a sense of security. And that includes, of course, money and investment, which for many people at this time feels a little bit scary or unpredictable. But it's also a good time to look at what you have and also shore up resources in ways that are stable. And for those who maybe are feeling very slim right now, these are really good days to thinking, okay, how do I prioritize and how do I work best with what I have? And also, again, aim towards what are systems and structures that can bring in more a sense of protection and security for me and my family. So oftentimes that might look like looking at, how budgets go, or really considering And here, I know this is difficult for some of us to contemplate, but the sign of Cancer, and especially how it's aspected as it moves through the sky over these couple of days, speaks a lot about, are you feeling that you're in the environment, structure, neighborhood, support system that really gives you what it is that you need going forward? And one thing to look at as the moon travels through signs is, where does it fall in your natal horoscope? So if you know where the sign of Cancer falls, then you can see what this concentration or thoughtfulness is over the next couple of days, and bring that back to, where did that new moon fall in the sign of Taurus in your horoscope, because that's going to tell you also what the theme is of how this all pans out over the next couple of weeks and beyond, depending how long range the project is. It doesn't mean that things that are initiated have to be about the theme of Taurus, but as I spoke earlier at the beginning of this recording, please recognize that so much of it has to do with Venusian values. So those are things that have to do with love, sense of deserving, and what it is we attract and want to bring in to our lives. So the energy that I just spoke about with that moon in Cancer goes through into May 2nd. And once we get to about, mid-morning on May 2nd, we're in this really nice juice of being able to start things that really interest you or that you really want to build on, and also to create secure relationships. So people who are really going to help you with follow through of whatever it is you want to make happen. On Saturday the 3rd, the moon goes void of course at 4:02 a.m. and it enters the sign of Leo at 7:29 a.m. So in that couple of hours, few hours of time when the moon is void of course, those are good times to be working in things already in motion. When the moon is void of course in the sun in Cancer, when the moon is void of course in the sign of Cancer, it actually is still very nice for being able to follow through and continue with whatever it was that you want to bring in and make happen. Moon void, of course, in many of the signs is not as promising of a good outcome. But when it's in the sign of Cancer, which is its natural sign, then it can often still hold that sense of, in the womb, giving birth to something that is still a good idea, and you're going to get that traction you need to follow through. When the moon is in the sign of Leo, however, this weekend can be really fun, a lot of creativity, a sense of exploration even. One thing to keep in mind, however, is that especially as we move through Saturday the 3rd, is there can be some push-pull with what it is you want to bring in a sense of, this is what I need right now, and actually someone or something that may be kind of holding back or giving ultimatums, or it's a kind of more contractual way of getting what you need instead of reciprocity or give and take or just unconditional. And if you're feeling that, which can be a push pull from someone else, it could have to do with perhaps financial options or cash flow. It may be something that you yourself have determined you have to withhold from what it is you would like or give at this point in time. What's important here is to evaluate the present day orientation to whatever this decision was. And as you move through the day, it may be that something can be adjusted. What's super important here is to keep in mind, especially as we get into Sunday, which can feel a little more chill. However, Pluto goes retrograde on this day, on Sunday. So, what that can mean is some of the information that we may need to know kind of goes underground, or that we don't have the resources that we thought we were going to have. And that may not be something that we know about this weekend, but it is important to keep in mind that whatever it is that you're perhaps very exuberant about, because the moon in Leo can be very excited about something. It can be going for something that looks very bright, very enticing, and we can get very energetic about it. So, once again, wherever you have Leo in your horoscope is going to let you know how affected you are by this particular travel or where it's affecting you. And it may be something that's creatively stimulating you, but what you find out is you can't pursue it at this point in time, and you're going to be getting actually some sort of disclosure that can occur that can shift what you thought may happen or how you thought it was going to pan out. This can be in areas of life that has to do with, well, anything that is a risk you may want to take. It can be a calculated risk. It can be a putting yourself out into something that you're offering to see how it's received. This often happens with people who are artists, performers. They perform or show something that is so much a part of who they are, and the response may not be exactly what you thought. The overall result absolutely can lead you in a direction that you had not anticipated. The key here is the word adaptability. The flexibility to reorient yourself if things don't go as you had thought they would. And so that's important to keep in mind over the days of the weekend, that you can be putting something out there and it's not received in the way that you had anticipated. Or maybe this is happening to someone close to you, or it's a business offer that you're involved in. It may not be something that's directly you putting out there, but it is something that then requires some kind of adjustment. And it can be a very small thing. Once again, it's how magnified it is will depend on where Leo falls in your horoscope or the chart of someone with whom you're directly involved over this weekend. Be adaptable, keep your sense of humor, and enjoy something cultural and stimulating. You have been listening to Astrology Insight Now. Please share with your friends, and if you'd like to make a donation, you can do so at astrologyinsightnow.com. Have a stellar week, and we hope to see you next time.